Sophia now approached him, telling him, "You are free to make love to me, my husband. Enter me and make me feel like a woman. For so long, I haven't been touched by a real man." How it all started. David was a very handsome man who lived in a small village with his parents, and also the only child. He was a farmer and was considered to be average, but he was rich in terms of his good looks and charming personality. His parents cherished him the most because of his hard work and dedication to the farm. People in the village loved David because of his hard work and kindness. He would often help his neighbors with their farm work and would always lend a listening ear to those who needed it. He was a well-respected member of the community and everyone thought highly of him, but behind closed doors, there was something else about David that not many people knew about. He had a secret life that he kept hidden from the rest of the world. He was a womanizer and would often sleep with different women in the village. He would charm them with his good looks and sweet talk, and they would easily fall for him. David's parents were unaware of his secret life and thought that he was a good son. They were proud of the way he worked hard on the farm and the way he helped others in the village. But little did they know, their son was living a double life. As time went on, David's secret life began to catch up with him. The women he had slept with began to talk, and soon the whole village knew about his womanizing ways. People were shocked and disappointed, and they couldn't believe that the man they had thought so highly of could be capable of such things. David's parents were heartbroken when they found out about their son's secret life. They had thought that he was a good person, but now they realized that they had been blind to his true nature. They tried to talk to him about it, but he just shrugged it off and said that he was sorry, but the damage had already been done. The villagers had lost respect for David, and he was no longer the man they had thought he was. He had ruined his reputation and had broken the trust of the people who had once looked up to him. So one day, David's parents called him into their chambers to talk to him about the way he was living his life. They were very concerned about him and wanted to sit him down and have a serious conversation. "David, we need to talk to you about your life," his mother said, looking at him with a mixture of concern and disappointment. "The way you're living is not good. You're going to hurt yourself, either by contracting a disease or by making these women hate you. And that's going to be very difficult for you in the future." David just shrugged and smiled, like he didn't care. "This is my time, mother and father," he said. "I have to enjoy my youthful age, before I enter into the so-called marriage. I'm not ready to settle down yet, I want to have fun and enjoy myself." His father's face turned red with anger. "I never lived such a life, David," he shouted. "I don't know where you got this blood from, but it's not from me or your mother. We taught you better than this." David just laughed and said, "Father, your life was the life of the past. This is a new generation, and I have to enjoy myself. This is my perfect time to have fun and do what I want. You can't expect me to live like you did, that's just not how it works." His father was furious, and he slammed his fist on the table. "I don't care about your generation or your perfect time," he shouted. "What I care about is that you're going to ruin your life and hurt the people around you. You need to stop this nonsense and start living a decent life." David just rolled his eyes and said, "You don't understand, father. You're just old-fashioned and out of touch. I know what I'm doing, and I'm happy with my life. So, just leave me alone and let me live my life the way I want to." His parents were shocked and disappointed by David's attitude, and they didn't know what to do with him. They had tried to talk to him and reason with him, but he just wouldn't listen. They were worried about his future. Despite his parents' advice, David didn't even slow down for a little bit. He just kept on going with his womanizing ways, sleeping with many girls in the village. It was like he had a mission to sleep with every single girl in the village, no matter what, and it didn't matter if there were 3 girls born in one family, David would do everything possible to make sure he slept with all of them. He would cause problems from one sister to another, and the girls would start to fight with each other over him. But the sad thing was that the girls didn't even have a clue that David was just deceiving them. They thought that the other sister wasn't good enough for him, and that they were the ones who were going to succeed. They would believe everything David told them, and they would fall deeply in love with him. David would use his sweet tongue to tell them that the other girl wasn't good in bed, and that he was only interested in them because they were perfect. He would tell them that he was going to marry them, and that they were the only ones he loved, and the girls would believe him, hook, line, and sinker. They would give themselves to him, and he would sleep with them and then leave them heartbroken. It was like he had no conscience at all, and he didn't care about the pain he was causing. The villagers would talk about David's ways, and they would shake their heads in disgust. They would say that he was a bad person, and that he was going to end up hurting himself one day. But David didn't care. He just kept on going, sleeping with girl after girl, and leaving a trail of broken hearts behind him. It was like he was addicted to the attention, and he couldn't get enough of it. He would do anything to get what he wanted, and he didn't care who he hurt in the process. And the girls, they would just keep on falling for him, no matter how many times he hurt them. It was a never-ending cycle, and it seemed like it was never going to stop. David's parents were at their wits' end. They didn't know what to do with him. They had tried to talk to him, they had tried to reason with him, but he just wouldn't listen, and so, the villagers would just watch and wait, and see what would happen next. They would see which girl would be the next to fall for David's charms, and they would see how long it would take for him to hurt her. It was like a never-ending soap opera, and everyone was just waiting to see what would happen next. One day, David's friend, Alex, was talking to him when they were drinking palm wine in a bar. "David, my friend, I'm telling you, this lifestyle of yours is not sustainable," Alex said, shaking his head. "All these girls you're sleeping with, they might set a trap for you one day, and you'll fall into it. You need to stop this womanizing and settle down." David just laughed and took a sip of his drink. "What are you talking about, Alex? I'm just having fun. I'm not hurting anyone." But Alex was serious. "You're not hurting anyone? Are you kidding me? You're breaking hearts left and right. These girls think you're going to marry them, or at least take care of them, but you're just using them for your own pleasure." "That's not right, David," David shrugged. "They know what they're getting into. They're not stupid. They know I'm not looking for a relationship." But Alex was not convinced. "That may be true, but they're still human beings, David. They have feelings and emotions. And you're playing with them like they're toys. It's not right." David sighed and looked away. He knew Alex was right, but he didn't want to hear it. He was having too much fun, and he didn't want to stop. "Look, Alex, I appreciate your concern, but I can take care of myself. I'm not going to get caught in any trap. I'm too smart for that." Alex shook his head. "You're not as smart as you think you are, David. You're playing with fire. And one day you're going to get burned. Mark my words." David just laughed and clapped Alex on the back. "Don't worry about me, my friend. I can handle myself. Now let's just enjoy our drinks and forget about this conversation." But Alex was not convinced. He knew David was heading for trouble, and he was determined to try and stop him before it was too late. So one faithful day, all the girls that David had slept with in the village gathered together, and they were all talking about how he had deceived them. They were all saying that he had slept with them, promised them things, and then pushed them away. "I don't know how he can do this to me," one of the girls said, crying. "He slept with me, told me he loved me, and then just discarded me like I was nothing." "Yes, he did the same thing to me," another girl said. "He told me I was the only one for him, but then I found out he was sleeping with my sister too." The girls were all crying and comforting each other. and they were all saying that David was a bad person. They said that he had taken advantage of them, and that he had broken their hearts. "We were all good to him," one of the girls said. "We gave him our bodies, our love, and our trust. But he just threw it all away like it meant nothing to him. He's not going to have a good life," one of the girls said. "He's going to end up with a bad one. He's going to suffer for what he's done to us." The girls were all calling on the gods of their land to punish David, and they were saying that he would never find happiness again. They were all saying that he would never find a good woman to love him, because he had treated them all so badly. As the years went by, David's lifestyle didn't change. He continued to womanize and sleep with all kinds of women. His mother would often try to advise him, but he would just brush her off. "The beautiful ones are not yet born," he would tell her. "When the beautiful ones are born, then I will settle down." His mother would shake her head and sigh, worried about her son's life. But David just wouldn't listen. He was too caught up in his own desires and pleasures. Life continued like this for many years, until one day, David was on his way to the farm when he came across a very beautiful young lady. She was standing by the side of the road, and David couldn't help but notice her. She was charming and stunning. With a radiant smile and sparkling eyes, David was taken aback by her beauty. He had never seen anyone like her before. He felt a sudden jolt of attraction, and he couldn't resist the urge to approach her. As he got closer, the young lady looked up and saw David staring at her. She smiled, and David's heart skipped a beat. He felt like he had been punched in the gut, and he couldn't catch his breath. "Hello," David said, trying to sound calm. "My name is David." "What's yours?" The young lady laughed, and David's heart melted. "My name is Sophia," she said. "It's nice to meet you, David." David was smitten. He couldn't take his eyes off Sophia, and he couldn't stop thinking about her. David told Sophia how he loved her and how he wants her to be her close friend. Sophia quickly accepted his friend request. The next day, David was on his way to the farm when he saw Sophia standing on the road again. He was surprised and asked her, "Sophia, why do you love standing on this road so much? You're always here. What's so special about this place?" Sophia smiled and said, "I just want to catch some fresh air, that's all. I love standing here, because it's so peaceful and calming." David was taken aback by her response. He thought to himself, how could such a beautiful girl be standing on the road just to catch fresh air? There must be more to it than that, but he didn't press the issue further. Instead, he asked her, "Why don't you come with me to the farm? We can work together today, and you can get all the fresh air you want." There's always plenty of fresh air at the farm. Sophia didn't hesitate, and she agreed to follow David to the farm. As they walked, David couldn't help but notice how beautiful Sophia looked in the morning light. He felt a strong attraction to her, and he was excited to have her by his side. As David and Sophia were alone in the farm, David's intentions became clear. He approached Sophia, his eyes filled with desire, and said, "You are so beautiful, I just can't resist you. I want to have sex with you, right now." Sophia smiled, a sly smile, and said, "Just like you did to many girls in the village, you want to do the same to me?" "No, it's not possible. You have not paid my bride price. If you want to have sex with me, you have to pay my bride price first." David was taken aback, but he was determined to have Sophia. He tried to persuade her, to convince her to give in to his desires, but she refused. He tried to touch her, but her body is so cold, and David would ask her, "Why is your body so cold?" Sophia would just smile and say, "It's nothing, that's just how I was created." Finally, David said, "Okay, no problem. I will come with my parents to pay your bride price in the next 4 market days, so that I can penetrate through you." "You are too beautiful to resist," Sophia smiled, a smile that sent shivers down David's spine, and said, "Okay, no problem. I will be waiting." David had no idea what he had just gotten himself into. He thought he was dealing with a beautiful woman, but in reality, he was dealing with a demon who had been sent to destroy him. As David left the farm, he couldn't wait to come back and claim Sophia as his own. He had no idea that his life was about to take a drastic turn, and that he would soon be facing the consequences of his actions. So David arrived home that day, and he was beaming with excitement. He told his parents, "Father, Mother, I've found a woman who I want to spend the rest of my life with." His parents were taken aback, but they were also happy for him. They asked him, "Are you serious? You're going to get a wife?" David nodded enthusiastically, "Yes, I'm serious. I've already promised her that we'll come to pay her bride price in the next 4 market days." His parents were surprised. "Where is the lady from?" they asked. David replied, "I normally meet her on my way to the farm. She's really beautiful, and I just can't resist her." His parents asked him, "Didn't the girl tell you where she's from?" David shook his head, "No, she didn't. But she said that when we're ready, she'll give us directions to her home. She's really mysterious, but I don't care. I'm just happy to have found someone I love." His parents were happy for him, but inside, they were worried. They thought to themselves, "Why didn't the lady tell our son where she's from? That's strange." But they didn't want to discourage David, so they just smiled and said, "That's nice, son. We're happy for you. Since you've decided to settle down, we won't stop you. Maybe this will be the end of your womanizing ways." David's father added, "Yes, it's about time you settled down. You're not getting any younger, and we want to see you happy." David's mother chimed in, "And we want to see you with a good woman who will take care of you. We're just happy that you've found someone you love." David was thrilled that his parents were supportive, and he couldn't wait to introduce them to his new wife. He said, "Mother, Father, you'll love her. She's really beautiful, and she's going to make me very happy." His parents smiled and nodded, but they were still a bit worried. They didn't know much about the lady, and they were concerned that David might be rushing into things. But they didn't want to spoil his happiness. As the day arrived, David and his parents prepared to go and pay the bride price of the beautiful lady their son had met on the road. They reached the exact spot where David had met Sophia, and she was standing there as usual, waiting for them. David's parents were surprised and asked, "Don't you know the way to her house instead of her coming out to wait for you on the road?" "That's not how it's done," but David just told them, "Never mind, Mommy. It doesn't matter as long as I find the woman of my heart. All those things don't matter." The lady, Sophia, was standing there, and she welcomed David's parents kindly. She asked them to follow her to her house, and they did. As they walked, David's parents couldn't help but notice that the lady seemed kind, but there was something strange about her. As they reached a particular spot, Sophia stopped and said, "This is where I normally come out from." And to their surprise, a group of people were gathering, all of whom seemed to be waiting for them. David's parents were confused, but Sophia just smiled and said, "These are my people. They have come to collect the bride price for me." David's parents were shocked, but they didn't want to cause any trouble. They paid the bride price, and Sophia was handed over to David to live with him forever. As they walked back home with Sophia, David's parents couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Something didn't feel right, but they didn't know what it was. David, on the other hand, was overjoyed. He had finally gotten the woman of his dreams, and he couldn't wait to penetrate into her. He thought to himself, "Finally, I'm going to do her what I did to other women. She's not going to be different. The only thing I want is how to make her mine forever." But little did David know, Sophia was not a human being. She was a demon, and she had been sent to destroy him. As they walked back home, Sophia was smiling to herself, thinking, I've got him right where I want him. He has no idea what's coming his way. As they approached their home, David's parents couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. They had a feeling that something was wrong, but they didn't know what it was. And as they entered their home, Sophia disappeared into the bedroom, leaving David and his parents alone in the living room. David's parents looked at each other, and they knew that something was not right. "David, we need to talk to you," his father said, his voice low and serious, but David just laughed and said, "What's wrong, father?" "I'm just happy to have finally found the woman of my dreams." His father looked at him, his eyes filled with concern. "David, we don't know what's going on, but we have a feeling that something is not right. You need to be careful." But David just waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, father. I've got everything under control. I'm just going to go and make love to my new wife." So David went to his wife, Sophia, to have intercourse and make her feel like a woman that night. But as he touched her, something oblivious happened. Her body was as cold as ice, and David was surprised. Why is it that your body is always cold?" David asked, his voice filled with concern. Sophia just smiled and said, "My dear husband, that is how I am being created." David was taken aback. "Maybe you should go and bath with hot water to make it hot," he suggested, but Sophia just laughed and said, "My darling husband, my sweetheart, my love, this is my body and this is how I am being created. Nothing else can change this body from being cold." David was surprised, but he didn't want to give up. He said, "Okay, no problem. It won't stop me from making love to you." Sophia now approached him, telling him, "You are free to make love to me, my husband. Enter me and make me feel like a woman. For so long, I haven't been touched by a real man." David was surprised, and he asked her, "Are you still a virgin?" Sophia laughed and said, "No, I am not a virgin. But it has been long since I have had sex with a real human being." David was shocked, and he quietly stood up from the bed. "What do you mean by a real human being?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion. Sophia just smiled and said, "You will find out soon enough, my husband. But for now, let's just make love and enjoy each other's company." David was hesitant, but he didn't want to disappoint Sophia. He decided to go ahead and make love to her, despite the coldness of her body. But as he entered her, he felt a strange sensation, like he was making love to a ghost or a spirit. David was confused and scared, and he didn't know what to do. He had never experienced anything like this before, and he didn't know how to react. He just lay there, frozen in fear, as Sophia continued to smile and laugh, her cold body wrapped around him like a shroud. "What's going on, Sophia?" David asked, his voice shaking with fear. "What's happening to me?" Sophia just laughed and said, "You will find out soon enough, my husband. But for now, just enjoy the ride." David tried to pretend and continue making love to Sophia, but it was no use. He tried to remain on her cold body for as long as he could, but it was too much to bear. He finally forced himself out of her and started shouting at her, "Who are you? Have you come to kill me? Did you come to destroy me with all your beauty?" Sophia just laughed and told him, "My husband, you are now my husband. Don't you come and make me feel like a woman? Oh, I really enjoyed the small one you did. Like I said before, it has been long since I made love to a real human being." David was shocked and confused. Who are you? Are you not a human being?" he asked. Sophia just broke down and started laughing uncontrollably. She laughed, and David was telling her, "I will shout," but Sophia angrily stood up from the bed and said, "If you like, shout from here from now to tomorrow. Nobody in this compound will ever hear you. Because I have closed everybody's ear, and nobody is going to hear you shout. You think you are wise? You think you can chew with any woman that you want? You think you can sleep with every woman and go out scot-free? Now, you are going to pay for your own food and own the consequences, Sophia was telling him. I am not a human being. In fact, let me show you the true color of me. And with that, Sophia turned into a half-human being and a half-snake. David was terrified and started shouting. But Sophia just laughed at him, telling him, if you like, shout from now to tomorrow, nobody is going to hear you. I have come to your life to teach you a lesson. David was shocked and frightened, and he didn't know what to do. He was trapped in a nightmare, and he didn't know how to wake up. Sophia's transformation into a half-human being and a half-snake was too much for him to handle. He was paralyzed with fear, and he couldn't move or speak. Sophia continued to laugh and taunt him, you should have been careful who you slept with. David was begging Sophia, please forgive me, I know I have wronged so many girls, but at least I married you, I made you my wife. You shouldn't have hurt me, but Sophia was unforgiving. Oh, so you knew you have hurt many girls? Their cries, I had their cries from the land of the dead. The way they were crying on how you hurt them. And I was in the land of the dead, where I relaxed, and I said to myself, why is my fellow women crying to this extent? I must go to the world and fight for them. And here I am with you, you must pay the price, how dare you, Sophia continued, what gave you the diversity to forbid women, to break their hearts, to load them with heartaches? You have married me. I am a dead woman, I am a snake, and forever we shall continue to be. Now, I am going to transform myself into a human being again, and we are going to make love. If you pregnant me, I will give birth to a snake, and they will continue to hunt you. David was crying and begging her, please forgive me, please forgive me. I will never do this again, I have learned a lesson. But Sophia was laughing and laughing uncontrollably. You should have thought of that before you started hurting women. You should have thought of that before you started breaking hearts. Now, it's too late, you must pay the price. David was like, oh, if only I had listened to my father, if only I had listened to everyone who advised me. It wouldn't have been like this for me. And Sophia was telling him, thank God people advised you, but you never listened. You wanted to live a life of youthful age, wanted to enjoy your life, enjoy more. But now, the enjoyment house is going to end here. You are going to pay for your sins, and you are going to pay dearly. As Sophia transformed back into a human being, David was shocked and terrified. He didn't know what to expect, and he didn't know what Sophia was capable of. He was trapped in a nightmare, and he didn't know how to wake up. That night, after David finished making love to Sophia, his new wife, he fell into a deep sleep. But in the morning, he couldn't wake up again. Sophia had also disappeared into thin air. David's parents went to wake him up, but he couldn't wake up again. They tried to shake him, they tried to call his name, but he was unresponsive. They soon realized that David was dead and gone. The news of David's death spread like wildfire through the village. Everyone was shocked and saddened by the news. They all went to mourn David's death. David's parents were left alone, crying and wailing in the middle of the villagers. They were heartbroken and couldn't understand what had happened to their son. As they cried, David's father said, this should be a lesson to every young youth. Mind your ways, it might hurt and make your life miserable. The whole village was in mourning, but the ladies were rejoicing. They were finally free from David's promiscuity and exploitation. They were happy that the man who had slept with all of them had died before them. One of the ladies said, we are finally free from his evil grasp. We can now live our lives in peace, without fear of being exploited and hurt by him. Another lady added, we should have done something about him a long time ago. But now, he is gone, and we can finally move on with our lives. The ladies were celebrating, while David's parents were mourning. They were left to pick up the pieces and try to make sense of what had happened to their son. As they cried and wailed, they couldn't help but wonder what had led to David's downfall. They knew that he had been living a promiscuous life, but they had no idea that it would lead to his death. David's father said, "We should have taught him better. We should have stopped him from marrying that evil woman, but who knows, but it was too late now." David was gone, and all they could do was mourn his loss and try to learn from his mistakes. The story of David's death served as a warning to all the young men in the village. They realized that their actions had consequences, and that they should always be mindful of how they treated others, especially women. The village was never the same again, but the ladies were finally free from David's exploitation. They could now live their lives in peace, without fear of being hurt by him, and as for David's parents, they were left to mourn the loss of their son, and to wonder what could have been done to prevent his tragic demise.